To see us at SimFest. It's good to be back. It's been a while. I was talking with Andrew last night about that. My name is Jesse James Allen. I am from Insomniac Games, and today we are talking about project strategy for Marvel's Spider-Man 2. This was the largest, most video game Insomniac has ever attempted. We had over 30 sound designers to bring this story to life. To keep that in perspective, I've been in the game industry long enough to say the sound design team on this game was larger than the entire dev team on some of the other titles I've been on. So it was a complex project, but we're going to give you a consolidated story around it. I think you will be surprised at some of our discoveries. Here are the topics that we're going to be covering today, and this is that ultimate question: how do you do something of this scale, right? So here we go. Show of hands, how many here would like to work on a Marvel project? Many of us have long had that dream of bringing some of the world's most beloved Marvel comic book characters to life, and especially for the sound designers through sound. What does it sound like to be a superhero, to be Spider-Man? Beyond that, to create a fully immersive environment with all the ambience familiar with New York City, Queens, Harlem, right down to the carnival barkers at Coney Island. Given a chance and the team, how would you bring that dream into reality? So what's hard about being an audio department in a game studio is that audio departments are traditionally a reactionary group at the end of the project. Often we are held to all the same deadlines as all the other departments, but we typically do need a bit of an offset because we're waiting for other assets to come in. We are affected by almost every upstream dependency, so organization and planning are a critical need. So, how do you plan and manage the most ambitious video game Insomniac has ever designed? Final and mix over 40 game missions across 13 weeks. Provide a plan for 30 sound designers and 13 dialogue artists, and resolve over 12,000 JIRA tasks, and somehow maintain work-life balance for all. We started with 5 steps. Step 1 was to clarify roles and responsibilities. We provided a simple illustration to help our sound designers navigate the questions they may face on the day-to-day. It should be noted that traditionally in the game industry, an audio director fulfills both creative and administrative roles. At Insomniac Games, it's a bit unique in that audio directors only focus on the creative aspects of sound, while the managers are primarily coordinate all the logistics and planning for the project. With that, each manager is focused on a specific part of the whole projects. In the admin, that might be JIRA management, it might be mix tracking, it might be dialogue logistics. So there was no leader per se. We were like a band. Each of us played collectively as one. There was 3 managers for this project. I was more on the sound effects side. Patrick McCulloch, who was on here, he is more of the dialogue side, and Daniel Brzezinski was managing the mix as we walked through the whole project. Step 2 was establishing a visible plan for all. We'll talk about the specifics of this mix tracker a little bit later, but the important part is we had to map out what was expected for every mission in the audio department. And this was established by working with PM combined with our knowledge of past game development cycles for audio. We planned this entire project back to front. Strategy not only helpful for audio, but the whole project as well. Number 3, raise our presence. Audio is often forgotten by upstream teams, a bit enigmatic by nature, by most other disciplines. We consciously decided to be proactive and transparent with our schedule and design intent, so much so that we had our own time slot in the weekly development team meetings to present stats and missions that were going to hit the mix stage. This was across 14 weeks. Every week we would say, here's what we're mixing. So every other team knew exactly where we were going to be at and finaling out everything. We hyped that concept of the Hollywood mix stage to give the context to the significance of finaling audio for missions. This changed the way the rest of the development team perceived us. We had a voice, we had a presence, and now we were part of the bigger picture in the minds of all. Step 4, similar to the concept of Hollywood dailies, there would be playthroughs of each mission several times a week by designers and directors. These videos we posted on an internal server that allowed us any of those notes into Jira tasks. Once each department reviewed and entered all the notes, we would sign off on this Excel sheet. The department managers then held one-on-ones with sound designers to clarify the notes. And to establish priorities for each of them. I had just joined Insomniac a few months before we had gotten into alpha. I went right into the deep end of production, and this is how I was quickly able to learn all about the game, although I learned about the entire story in a non-linear fashion, and there's some moments in that game you're like, what, we're really doing this? But I was able to derive a concise list of critical needs and help each designer work through their solutions. This process brought tremendous clarity to everyone involved, got us ahead of the task curve in alpha, and helped us sculpt an extraordinary game in beta and gold. Step 5, rethinking Jira. Now, there is a reason why many designers have mixed feelings about Jira. Between Scrum meetings, the emphasis of number of tasks closed, Jira often feels like an arbitrary and disconnected element in the creative process. So if one person closes 30 tasks, are they really doing a better job than someone who only managed to close 3? As a manager, I have to ask myself, what were the details on those 3? We decided to put more focus on time estimates and time capacity, not task numbers. This would prove to be one of our very best decisions. We recognize there is no way a person can address tasks 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. That is just not human. We intentionally reduced the number of trackable workdays to 4. The equivalent of that 5th day is we considered time spent dealing with like meetings, shifting gears, computer issues, but retrospectively, especially as we started getting into the higher end months, I probably should reduce this to 3 in future. So if a sound designer is in the capacity, the week lights up green. That means that they have 4 out of 4 days completely booked. If they go over even by as smallest percentage, they turn red. So if you have too many red weeks, that sound designer was considered capacity locked. And as leads, we would reevaluate scope and support priorities. So I would, essentially bring this up to all the other directors and managers of like, hey, these are the people that are kind of getting into crunch territory, and I could even tell how far down the line that they were, that might actually occur, so we can get them support and help scale down just the scope of the project. Also, I could inform across a great number of weeks, and I could tell by the math if we were steering to the rough waters or advise how we might rearrange things to navigate. This eventually led to some very powerful analytics that through the months I discovered turned the tide on efficiency. This eventually became our managerial superpower, and other departments took notice. So you can see here, this is like as we were starting to define this process and everything's kind of like the spaghetti model. Once we started executing everything just based on capacity and not by task numbers, things started to even out and it became very predictable. So we'd hit our milestones and we'd have like perfect closure rates. We closed 12,488 Jira audio tasks and crossed gold with less than a 1% margin of error. We sustained 13 of the most critical weeks, well below the trend line. Thank you. So I'm going to switch over to this part. Actually, Patrick McCullough, who is our dialogue director, had given some insight on kind of how we went about telling this story. As game creators, we are entrusted with the responsibility of bringing one of the most iconic superheroes to life. We approach this, of course, with honor and understanding the impact our work would have on players. Every decision, every line of dialogue was infused with our collective passion for Marvel's legacy. We wanted to create unforgettable experiences that would both delight longtime fans and captivate a new generation. We embarked on this extraordinary journey and dedicated ourselves to the idea of transcending the boundaries of interactive storytelling and immerse players in the breathtaking world of New York's Spider-Man. What are some of the biggest challenges for dialogue? Well, one of them was scope. Populating New York City was no small task. 85,000 final voice assets, 224 days of recording, and a total of 550 VO sessions. Late story changes and scope creep. Working in a creative field often means that embracing the unpredictable nature of the creative process. So as Duke Ellington once said, "I don't need time. What I need is a deadline." To me, this quote sheds light on the inherent trait among creatives to thrive under pressure. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 was no exception. 40% of our gameplay VO lines became available to record post-alpha. Cinematics were originally estimated at 2.5 hours of content. That's a feature motion picture. The final runtime was over 5 hours. That is 185% over scope. Of course, localization. How do we make sure that all of this material coming through at a super hot timeline gets into the game? I'd like to say we anticipated the inevitable revisions and embraced them for our opportunities for growth, but we didn't. We learned to, for sure. The key for our success at the end was our ability to be adaptable. We recognized that the team needed to become a little more compartmentalized, couldn't say that, than normal. We needed to dedicate a strike team to attack each aspect of our ballooning dialogue production, and that's exactly what we did and how we overcome. This is a little bit on like how we use the past to guide us, like how we learned lessons from other games and designed what we were going to do with the sound effects end of things. So let's talk sound design. We've made a lot of headway in improving our workflow process by transforming prior challenges into a better future. We used past games such as Ratchet and Clank's Rifted Apart and Marvel's Spider-Man's Miles Morales as a foundation. How we went about this is we collected feedback during productions through retrospectives, covering aspects such as what went well, the challenges, the ideas for improvement. So important to act on that feedback was just to not discourage the team, to bring it all out. From that feedback, we categorized each design, assigned it its ownership and priorities, formulated its next steps. This would help us turn the tide on training and moving and evolving in our process. Our biggest methodology shift was the underlying implementation of the mix, fixing provided to be one of the biggest wins. For examples, in the mix, we established loudness standards, voice priority standards, and attenuation curves. Now keep in mind, when I'm talking about the mix, there was over 500 channels of audio for Spider-Man 2. So this all resulted into a fairly hefty mix checklist, and that's what really helped us move the needle. And this is how we went about planning Spider-Man's 2. First step, of course, is listing out the new game systems and features that we will need for the game. Sound styles. These are a great exercise that would help us define the sonic character for each of the aspects of our game. So we kind of think of it as like defining a color palette. We established clear roles for our technical sound designers to help them bridge between our core gameplay team. This is the group that's like essentially doing all the runtime audio engine stuff. And then the tech team would work on things like propagation, which is like how sound plays out inside of a space. We used one-sheets to have a unified format for all designers, along with a goal-driven approach to each milestone. Greater production suite team switched into a pod format, each focusing on specific aspects of the game, such as this group of people would just do combats, this group would just do missions, other people would just focus only on accessibility. Each pod included members from every game discipline, so we'd have like an audio person, a designer, a VFX person, and they'd all collaborate on that aspect of the game, and that way there was nobody was out of the loop or had to wait till the end. Strike teams were more focused, such as the team fine-tuning the Scream boss battle. In the third part of the game, strike teams were also common only to be a few weeks long. So, we'd come together and we're saying, like, this is going to be a week that we're going to try to bring this thing up to quality, and then we just kind of grabbed a group of people from each discipline, and that's all they focused on. They kind of turned off the rest of the project for them. Across the project, we of course had many meetings and playthroughs and discussions. Enumerations were similar to the markups and deadlines of the film industry. This allowed us to capture moments of gameplay, list out suggestions that would be transformative, and then turn those into JIRA tasks and revised as we needed across departments. Here are some of the audio systems developed or refined. My favorite of all these was the rattle system. This was one and unique from the list. Most games, if you have a loud sound or an impact or an explosion, it would cause like cool echoes in the game and reflections. But from a sonic standpoint, that's about it. So Marvel Spider-Man 2, we had the rattle response system. So if there was a loud impact or explosion that happened, let's say in a warehouse, the chain link fences and boxes rattled based on the amplitude and proximity as they would in real life. A very detail-oriented thing, but a huge step up in immersion. And of course, like this game had so many massive power moves with like Lizard and Venom and whatnot. It was just that kind of I guess visceral experience. It even resonates through haptics and stuff. So it kind of gives you a more real life experience. We realized early the mix is going to be critical, not only to finish this game on time, but to hit the quality bar. The traditional way of mixing video games was not going to cut it. We should plan it as if we were in the film industry. We're going to bring all the aspects to a mix stage for a full mix down. A mix tracker was established to schedule out all phases of the mixing in a very, very high detailed way. We go in and we know each aspect of the game and when that element would actually go to the mix stage. Since Insomniac is a digital-first studio, meaning a significant amount of our audio team are working remotely across the United States, we use Sony's 360 virtual mixing environment tech to accurately sonically map to the mix stage in Burbank. This was done by impulses in a room. So we actually had to travel to Burbank. They put these things in your ear, and then they would play out all this stuff in the room. They would build a profile of here's what our mix suite sounds like. And then you still have the headphones on. They're like, okay, now we're gonna play these things again. And you're like, okay, that was the test. And they're like, no, that's the representation of it. And you're like, that sounds exactly like you're in that mix stage space. It's pretty phenomenal, a bit voodoo-ish for me. This was done with impulses, and the sound designer could put on a set of headphones in another state and experience 3D audio representation of how that game sounded in Burbank, and it was stunningly accurate. Here's a little example of our mix tracker. It was all color-coded, so we knew which phase of the mix we were in on what date. These were broken down into checklists to ensure that each sound designer understood what they were accountable for, propagation checks to ensure sounds behaved in each unique mix environment as designed. There was a pre-mix, which we would call the big brush strokes. System mixing ensured that everything got working. Getting ready for the gold mix, and the gold mix, of course, was representative of the final form mix, and that's the most detailed version of it. The final mix is actually where we sit there with game directors and whatnot, and we do the moment-to-moment mix styling, every little detail. And so, yeah, this pretty much represents it well. If you're a sound designer, you'd go, okay, here's where your all technical side of things were going. You would go into your, which weeks you would actually have to do any revisions coming from upstream teams or whatnot. It was a great visual way to get everybody on the same page. Each stage allowed us to have time to react if something didn't sound as originally hoped. So it was if we were going down this project and let's say there's a production change and the Lizard level moved a couple weeks later, we could actually move its project timeline over, bring up another mission, and focus that on the mix stage as well. So that was really cool. We could be dynamic. Here's a visual example, how we progressed through the months to final. So just as I said, we had a checklist. Propagation is mostly setting up room environments, the boundaries, occlusion, all those kinds of things. When you're talking about something that's a pretty much 1:1 scale version of New York City, that took a long time. It was incredible. All right, and then here's an overview of our final success here. Having spec sheets really helped with all the prioritization, high quality bird's eye view of everything. Most audio features were active in alpha. We kept the game sounding good through most of production, so it was great for people to be able to make creative decisions on things. We had all high quality assets and solid functionality in by beta. We hit gold with less than a 1% burn down overage on everything. We hit patch and revision schedule at 100%. We minimized crunch and maintained well-being. Our audio team was recognized as a leading force for proper planning across departments. We ended up with a highly cinematic mix. We established a great methodology for future projects. And beyond that, among the 20 wins and 43 nominations for this video game, we won the MPSE Golden Reel for Outstanding Achievement in Sound Editing and Foley. And the cherry on top of that is that Marvel's Spider-Man 2 won Best Action Game of the Year at the DICE Awards and Outstanding Achievement in Audio Design. Cool. Right on. So that is my presentation. We do have a little bit of a giveaway to do right now. And then if y'all have questions, I'm going to be out in the lobby, and I will be here for a while. So don't rush. It's all good, and I'll be happy to chat with you about this project.
Can you tell them about the giveaways while I tear
Oh, okay,
raffle?
yeah.
If you in the room have a raffle ticket. If you don't, please come up here and let's get your raffle ticket. Yep, please come up and we'll get you into the raffle for cool stuff. Not my hat, I'm keeping that one. But then we gotta draw the raffle tickets out. Alright, last chance everybody.
Everybody got a raffle ticket?
Do it. He's gonna tell them what they are first.
All right, so the very first thing to give away is The Art of Miles Morales, which is the game before. It has all the concept art in it. It has all kinds of insight from the art department of how everything was planned out, the character design and everything. It's an awesome book. Do you want to go ahead and pull a number, or are you still pulling tickets?
Tell them what the others are.
Okay, so that will be the first one, and then the second one, kind of all that in a bag of chips. This is the same thing, the whole art book for this project. Yeah, so it has all the character info, backstories, storyboards, all this stuff. Yeah, it's just pretty much everything, like how everything came together and was put design, how it was designed. And I do want you to know that if you don't win today, you can actually buy these books online. They are available. But I wanted to bring something special for everybody. So, yeah.
We are ready. We are ready. All right.
So, sure.
This is for the Miles Morales. No, let's save that one because Joe wants it. Let's build the tension. Let's
All
start
right.
The Art of Spider-Man 2.
All right. So we have B294316 for the Art of Spider-Man 2.
What are the last three on it?
4316.
Yay!
Make sure I'm not.
Yeah.
The right one, right?
316. All right. You enjoy that.
Thank you.
Alright, this one Joe Castro wins. I mean,
He's like, come on, man. All right, The Art of Miles Morales, B294329.
Off by one! 28.
Is that you? Is that you? Oh my God. Yeah. You enjoy that. All right.
all right.
Thank you, everybody. I'll be out in the lobby if, I'll be out in the lobby if anybody wants to come and chat, or you can just have questions about the project, or just how to get in the game industry or anything like that. I'd be happy to help.